Well, we're up and running again, and this is Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis. I'm CEO of MAGE LLC and host of Radio Entrepreneurs. And I want to thank our real hosts, MTP Software, the leader in sports CRM, for hosting us and building us this lovely studio. I think anyone who's been into it the last 6 months has noticed big upgrades. Everything's going great. Good technology. Come on down if you haven't seen what we've done with Radio Entrepreneurs. Our next guest, Jim Laughren, certified wine educator and author, 50 Ways to Love Wine More. Wow.
Good morning.
Good morning, and nice to see you. Jim, tell us about you and your books.
The books are really an outgrowth of earlier business interests. I was at one time an importer of fine wine from Europe primarily, and had a distribution business based in the southeast of the United States. And more was asked by people for assistance in understanding wine and ordering properly and just learning their way around wine. So that kind of pushed me into writing more. And so this latest book is really an exploration of wine appreciation from the perspective that the magic of wine really happens in your heart and not in your head. So it's not laden with facts and figures and chemical analyses, but more about opportunities and travel and emotional experiences.
Oh, very nice. So what's your background that sort of led you to this point of time?
Well, originally I was a business consultant, and I had met some people and an amateur wine lover at that time. And I had met some people who owned a distribution company, as I say, in Miami. They were having a lot of problems with the business, so we had met in a tasting group that we belonged to mutually. And so the gentleman who owned this company asked me if I would come in as president and run the company and try to build it up because they were not doing well on the business side of things. So for me, it was a wonderful opportunity, which I grabbed. One of the secrets of entrepreneurship is recognize the opportunity when it's in front of you. And never looked back. I didn't know exactly where it was going to go at the time, but it was in a field that I loved and wanted to know more about. So that was 25 years ago.
And so what was the inspiration to write the book? And tell us, dig into the book for us.
Absolutely. Well, we've got two here. So let me dig into book one first, which is a beer drinker's guide to knowing and enjoying fine wine.
Okay.
And I had taught many classes, and both for consumers. I also did a lot of training for restaurant staff people. And a common request from many of the students was, boy, I really wish I could get my boyfriend, father, uncle, husband, mother, sister, someone else into wine. They love beer. They're hung up on beer. I just can't get him or her interested in wine. How do I go about that? So I heard that so many times that it really became the impetus for the original book, which is, again, just talking about the commonalities of two of the world's great fermented beverages, both their history and their use, and how to appreciate one and at the same time appreciate the other. There can be a lot of kind of beer versus wine division in certain circles. It's true.
I know beer drinkers and I know wine drinkers, and it's sort of like the Union and the Confederates.
It can be, yes. Which is really a waste of energy because they're both great drinks. Just kind of depends on the circumstance and the situation.
Oh, here, my wife's a wine drinker. I'm a beer drinker.
Yeah, I was talking to one lady who was a host of a morning show, and she asked me about this, and she said, "Oh my God, that sounds like my husband." I says, "He's a beer drinker." She says, "He drinks beer like it's his job."
Right.
So. Then the second book was really something to embrace all wine drinkers, targeted probably at the person who's been drinking wine for a few years, really enjoys it, would like to know more about it. It feels kind of left out because all they know is Merlot or Pinot Grigio, and they kind of want to get beyond that point. And it also it gets much more in detail as well. But it's really a compendium of enjoyable, educational, cultural things you can do that are wine focused.
Interesting. And how are you selling the book?
I have a pretty traditional route to selling it. I have a great distributor, and then we are available in many bookstores. If we're not, you can certainly order it through bookstores and obviously on Amazon, which is the 800-pound gorilla in the book-selling world. So either one is available there as well.
Good. Are you selling it in wine stores?
Somewhat, yes, somewhat. That's the obvious place for it, and bigger stores that sell both wine and beer really like the first book.
So what are some of the biggest things that you need to teach people about wine that they probably need to know?
I think that one of the key things is that they should learn to trust their own palate. Too many people are swayed by some wine critic's review. Or some critic says, well, you can't have this with this kind of food, or this wine just isn't as good as it should be, or whatever the case may be. And people believe that, forgetting the fact that we all have a very unique palate. You know, the chemistry in one person's mouth is very different than the chemistry in another person's. And taste is also very entwined with memory and with emotion. And so what to you might seem like a wonderful wine with just a hint of smokiness that you really enjoy in a wine, to someone else may be a reminder of the time their house burned down when they were a kid, that same smokiness. So, I mean, that's an extreme example, but it does illustrate the fact that we all have our own perceptions. So trust yourself. That's the first thing. Find some wine, try some wines, find some things you like, and then build on that.
I think that's a good piece of advice. Anything else you want to add on that list?
Experiment.
Do you have any feelings about wines from different countries or regions?
Oh, try them all. Try everything. I mean, you've really got to be an experimenter, because there are thousands, literally thousands of wonderful wines made around the world. And yet if you go to a wine list in the average pretty good restaurant, you might come across 20, possibly 30 types of wine. You know, it's going to be Cabernet and Pinot Noir and Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay and, you know, a handful of others, and that's it. Well, that is minuscule in comparison to what you can find.
Right.
So really enjoy it. I mean, let it be a fun exploration. I just spent a couple of weeks this spring in the country of Georgia, which was fabulous. They make wine the same way they've been making it for 8,000 years. I mean, it's the oldest wine culture in the world, and their wine is unlike the wine that most people in this country are used to drinking. So take advantage of that, experiment with it.
Did you like it?
Oh, it was wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful stuff, and it's a wonderful country. I mean, the people are fabulous people. So I highly recommend a trip to Georgia. If you ever get the opportunity.
You mean in Russia?
Yeah, well, not in Russia. No,
in that part,
it's south
Asia.
of Russia. Right. Yes. Yep.
Right. Used to be part of the Soviet Union.
Right. It was. Yes,
Right.
indeed.
Right.
Nothing they ever wanted, but that's how it ended up. So,
Well,
yeah.
That's the history of a lot of the world.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's for another story, not the wine story. Again, everybody, we've been speaking with Jim Laughren, certified wine educator and author, 50 Ways to Love Wine More. And the other book, A Beer Drinker's Guide to Knowing and Enjoying Fine Wine. Jim, if someone's looking for you and your books, how would they do that?
As I say, the books are available on Amazon. If someone would like to contact me directly, they can go to my website, which is the old www.jimlaughren.com. So we try to make that easy. And
JimLaughren.com.
That's it, jimlaughren.com.
Thank you, Jim Laughren, for being on the show. Next time, bring some wine.
All right, you've got it.
Remind everybody, this is Radio Entrepreneurs, and we will be right back after these messages.